All right, here we go. Brand new Flyers Daily for the 30th of December, 2023, almost 2024. We're getting there. Flyers Daily presented by Ticketmaster. Make more memories live. Only one Flyer goal in this game. It comes shorthanded. 2 assists on it, however, which means 60 pounds of food will be donated to local communities in need as part of the Flyers and Penn Medicine's Community Assist. So Flyers get a point out of the game. They have now gone 9 straight road games where they get at least a point. Point streak of 9 straight games on the road. They've been road warriors. They've taken a lot of miles this season with a couple of trips out west, including this trip, which will still have them visiting Calgary and Edmonton to wrap it up. And they've already done the California trip. They've done the Dallas. The travel is going to get a lot easier. That was the last game last night that the Flyers will play at 10 o'clock Eastern time. The game coming up against Edmonton on the 2nd, that'll be a 9 o'clock game. But then after that, the latest game time they'll have is 8 o'clock Stadium Series game against the New Jersey Devils. And it'll be a lot of 7 o'clock, some matinees, and Flyers will basically be in the same time zone for most of the remainder of the season with a lot of the heavy lifting from a travel standpoint in the rears. Let's get to the particulars from this game, however, as the Flyers get outshot in the game 29-28. They held Seattle to just 5 shots in the first period. The Seattle picked it up in the second, but unable to beat Carter Hart until the third. We'll get to that in a second. Hits were 19-10 in favor of Seattle. Flyers did go on the power play 3 times. Seattle went on it twice. Seattle capitalized, got a power play goal to tie the game in the third period. Flyers go over 3 on the man advantage. And again, we're kind of looking, this team has done so many things well. We're going to talk about 2 of those things, including the penalty kill or power kill, and also just the structure defensively of this team. But the one thing, kind of the wart on the supermodel, is been the power play. And again, it rears its head here. They get a power play goal in the first game of this trip against Vancouver to open the scoring, but they're unable to get 1 in 3 opportunities against the Seattle Kraken. And obviously, a power play goal, you're not going to score 1 every game. Even the top power plays in the league don't. But the way it could help in a game like this where they're not driving a ton of goal scoring, obviously, they only score the 1 goal. It would be very pronounced in its effect on the outcome, to say the least. But the Flyers in this game, they open the scoring in the first period. They do it on the power kill as Travis Konechny at 16:21 of the first has some good stick-to-itiveness, stays with the play, and is able to tuck it behind Joey Decord to pick up a shorthanded goal, his 17th of the season. It's the Flyers' 9th shorthanded goal of the season, which ties them for the league lead with the Calgary Flames and the St. Louis Blues. We'll see Calgary next, coming up on Sunday for New Year's Eve. Scott Laughton and Travis Sanheim get the assist. And really, this play all starts on the PK with a really good read by Scott Laughton. The Seattle Kraken want to go D to D from the right side of the blue line toward the middle of the ice, but Laughton reads it and kind of jumps the play and causes the turnover, which eventually goes to Sanheim. And because Laughton knew he created the turnover, immediately he darts through the neutral zone. Travis Konechny sees it as well. He darts. So now you got 2 guys flying. I feel like in past years would have grabbed this puck, got his head up, said, okay, let me find the lane, and I'll bomb it. I'll send it down the ice, and we'll get a change here on the PK. But he didn't do that. Because of the success that they've had on the penalty kill offensively this season, Sanheim knows to get his head up and look for a man, and that's exactly what he does. 1 touch, doesn't dust the puck off in any way, shape, or form. Puck comes to him on the turnover, quick up, right to Laughton in stride, who's got Konechny joining him, and now it's 2-on-1. Laughton eventually slides it over to Konechny. Konechny stays with it, eventually puts it behind Joey Decord, puts the Flyers up 1-0. And this PK and the ability to create offense off it is astounding. The Flyers have 9 power play goals on the road this season. 9. They have 7, I think now 8 shorthanded goals on the road this season. That's an insane number. It's an indictment on one thing, the power play, but it's also a great thing for the PK. You just get the 2 together, that would make them even more dangerous. So Flyers go up 1-0. That's how we'd ended the first. Like I said, Seattle only had 5 shots on Carter Hart in that first period. He ate them all up. Seattle much more offensive in the second period. Hart dialed in once again. You could see his game was dialed in. And then eventually in the third at 5:45 of the third period, Seattle goes on the power play, and they know they're facing a goaltender that's playing very well in Carter Hart. So what do? They do what you're supposed to do. Put a ton of traffic around him. And they put a ton of traffic around Hart, impedes his ability to track this shot from Vince Dunn from the point. It's a power play goal. It ties it at 1, and that's how the third period would end. Flyers go into that third period, by the way, with the 1-0 lead, where they're 13-1 this season going into that third, when carrying the lead into the third period. The only time they've lost is back on October 24th against the Vegas Golden Knights. So they're in comfortable territory here. They're in a situation where they're leading going into the third. A lot of those games, it's been a one-goal lead. Go back to the Colorado game. You go back to so many of the other games, Pittsburgh, where you're either tied or up by 1 heading into a third, and the Flyers have found a way to come out with 2 points. Uh, but Seattle of late has been playing some tight hockey games as well. Their 5 games leading into the game last night, now 6, have all been one-goal games. They had a shootout loss, an overtime loss, and then 3 straight one-goal game wins in regulation for Seattle, and obviously another one last night against the Flyers, 2-1, which they got in overtime. So they've been comfortable in this tight game position as well. But we head to overtime. Flyers 3-3 in the overtimes this season, but unfortunately, 2:35 in, it's Justin Schultz has a kind of redirect push shot, is the best way to call it. On the left side, the glove side inside of Carter Hart, he's able to get Hart to open up as he's moving from his right to his left, and he's able to kind of shovel that one through. The 5-hole is Hart's trying to close that up and get all the holes closed as he's moving over. It's really good puck movement here from Seattle, and Schultz does a real good job not collecting that puck and just gets it right to the goal. Ends up beating Hart, and Seattle will grab the extra point in advance of them playing in the Winter Classic coming up in 2 days, and the Flyers will come away with the 1 point. It's an important point, and so many years and so many times on this podcast, I've talked about the loser point and how I hated it and didn't mean anything. But again, this 1 point they get here, and now 9 games point streak that they have in road games is proving to be pretty darn important. It's kind of making me eat my words a little bit in some ways, because the Flyers get the 1 point now through 35 games. They've got a record of 19, 11, and 5, 43 points, and they're tied with the New York Islanders in points. Islanders have also played 35 games, 17, 9, and 9. Flyers have the second spot, however, though, because they have the 19 wins and the Islanders have the 17 wins. It also keeps the Flyers ahead of the Carolina Hurricanes, who've played one more game but have 42 points. Devils got a win yesterday. They pick up the 2 points. They've played 34 games, one less than the Flyers, but are 3 points back. The Cap, who have now all of a sudden lost 3 straight games and are 5-3-2 in their last 10, sit at 39 points, 4 points back of the Flyers, still have 2 games in hand. And the Penguins, with 33 games played, are sitting, 7 points back of the Flyers. And the Pens plus 10 in goal differential, that's minus 17. Kind of feeling that's kind of smoke and mirrors, and that's going to play itself out in a negative fashion for the Washington Capitals. So next up for the Flyers, it'll be one of the teams that they're tied with for shorthanded goals on the season. That's the Calgary Flames. That'll be 8 o'clock coming up on Sunday in Calgary. Then they'll head to Edmonton to wrap up this very important 4-game road trip against the Edmonton Oilers at 9 o'clock coming up on the 2nd, and they'll return home Thursday the 4th against the Columbus Blue Jackets. So 2-1 overtime loss, get a point out of it against the Seattle Kraken. And we'll see Seattle coming up a little bit later this season as well. But in this episode, one of the things I wanted to focus on was 2 elements. You know, I often preach about the teams that are the most dangerous when things get really tight in the NHL are teams that can win and compete in low scoring games. These games that aren't like hairs on fire, 6-4, or even 5-2. But these games like this one that are 2-1, 3-2, those tight playoff field type games, They're really important, and the biggest catalyst to that is the teams with the lowest amount of goals allowed per games played. When you look at the teams, at the top in the NHL and the teams that are plus in goal differential, it's all because they keep the puck out of their net. Like the Los Angeles Kings, for example, lead the NHL. They only give up 2.34 goals per game. Winnipeg, they got a record of 29 and 4, 44 points, 2.52 goals per game. These are all teams that have good goaltending. Cam Talbot for the Kings, Hellebuck for the Winnipeg Jets. Vancouver's got Casey DeSmith and Thatcher Demko. They only give up 2.5 goals per game. Florida only gives up 2.6. They're fourth in the league. Boston's got Swayman and Allmark, 2.6. The Penguins have gotten good goaltending this year from Tristan Jarry, 2.7 goals per game allowed. Flyers just 2.71, seventh in the NHL. They're actually ahead of the Rangers. They give up less goals than the New York Rangers, who are 24, 9, and 1 on the year, and less than the Vegas Golden Knights, who give up 2.76. And that's not just goaltending. I mean, goaltending helps. You look at all of those teams, whether it's Shesterkin with the Rangers or Jari or the tandem of Swayman and Allmark and Bobrovsky with the Florida Panthers and Demko and Smith. Like I said, all the goalies I kind of laid out. But it's also about the team defensive structure. That's a huge element of it. And that is something that I think the structure, I think the seeds of that for this year were planted last year before they instituted this high volume to high transition, high risk offense. They got that part of the muscle memory down for most of these guys to defend the right way, to defend the puck and defend away from the puck the right way, to not put themselves in really bad small area disadvantageous positions, little mini ones within the offensive zone, where a guy down around the goal line has got one defenseman and a guy sitting backdoor or migrating high in the slot. They found a way to not over pursue defensively, to be redundant on the puck. And that's a hard thing to do because it's got to be a lot of communication. You got to play with instinct, and guys got to know to do their job and not try and do another guy's job. And if another guy's not doing his job, don't go and try and do his job, because then you got two guys not doing their job. So the defensive structure, and again, I think this really goes back into last season and what Brad Shaw and John Tortorella really beat into their team last year. The first element was, okay, let's defend much better. And last year they had to defend much better and defend a lot more than they've defended this year. And this year it's been, okay, now that we know how to defend, let's just do it a lot less. And let's strain the opposition by playing so much faster in transition. And that's been a very successful formula. But you always got to build your team and build your structure from your own goal line out. Because if you can't defend in this league, you're going nowhere anytime fast. You're basically just on a treadmill walking and you're not going anywhere. So that was a big element of the success that they're seeing this year, combined with the way they've adapted to this transition offense and stressing the opponent. The other area, which again goes into structure, and maybe this is part last year paying dividends into this year again, is the penalty kill. They have the fourth ranked penalty kill in the NHL. Now, a couple components make for a good penalty kill. Number one, first and foremost, is guys that have the will to be penalty killer, that are willing to do what it takes to be a penalty killer and read it right, when to take risk, when to press a guy, when to sit back and structure, when to just take away the cross-ice passing lanes and protect the middle. That's number one. They do that very well. They do a great job of keeping any opportunities the opposition gets on the penalty kill or on 5-on-5 to the outside and out of what I always call the house, out of the middle of the ice. So they do that well. And then you have the ability to know when to attack to try and grab offense. And that also, you come in with a reputation when you're a team that's tied at the top of the NHL in shorthanded goals. You come as, the opposition knows that they're going to attack in certain situations. and it has them a little tentative. And you see teams that are really good on a penalty kill structurally and really good with the element of offense to add to it by being able to score shorthanded goals and being able to get up the ice and create offense shorthanded, even if you don't score, that makes a team a little nervous on the power play. And they're kind of going, okay, where are they going to attack? If we've got a player on the boards on his backhand, that's probably when we're going to get attacked. If I put a puck into somebody's feet on a cross ice pass, then that's when they're going to attack. You have to pick your spot when you're penalty killing to attack when the opposition player with the puck is vulnerable. Backhand's vulnerable. Puck in your feet, vulnerable. When you can kind of surround them or push them into coverage, then they're vulnerable. Then guys can do that. Those two areas have been huge. And as good as the penalty kill is at 86 point north of 86% that they're killing off, the element of adding 9 shorthanded goals is, that's frosting on top of the cake. That they've got guys like Scott Lawton and Travis Konechny and Travis Sanheim who now kills penalties and can create offense and transition on the PK. It's been such a huge difference for this team. Even though the power play has been obviously a huge, huge letdown this season. I mean, you look at the power play, it's the second worst in the NHL. It's at 11.2%. I mean, 11.2%. But, I mean, imagine if the PK was average in the NHL. I think that would cost them at least 3, maybe 4 wins to what they have right now, and they would probably be 6, 8 points lower in the standings, and if that's the case, they're in the 7th spot in the division. Penguins are 7 points back in the 7th spot. If they don't have, 6, 8 points, standings points, and I think that's what the PK and the defensive structure in the D zone has given them, we're not enjoying this year. We're saying, "Okay, they're probably in the mix for top of the draft once again." And we're not feeling great about this step forward that this team is making. That's how pronounced those 2 elements, defensive zone structure, and they now able to play quickly in transition, and the penalty kill and power kill, creating offense. That's what it has meant to the record this season. It's a huge difference. We're not enjoying hockey here coming up to 2024 like we are if those 2 elements aren't clicking at a very high rate and a very high standard. That's a fact. I don't think that one can be debated. All right, we'll be back tomorrow. We'll preview New Year's Eve with the Flyers and Calgary Flames. Get you ready for that game, and that will be coming up tomorrow on a brand new edition of Flyers Daily.